Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Preparing for the Post-Pandemic Digital Transformation, a webinar organized by Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in collaboration with Disruptive Leadership Institute. Just to share a few house rules, all participants' mics will be muted and videos will be switched off to avoid any technical disruptions. If you have any queries, please type your questions by clicking the Q&A button below on your screen. Kindly take note, this webinar session is recorded for archiving and training purposes. So this is the program schedule for today's session. So opening address will be given by our SICCI Chairman, Dr. T. Chandru, and then followed by Professor Sattar Bhavani. He'll be sharing, he'll be the keynote speaker, followed by there's a Q&A session. So for the opening address, I would like to introduce Dr. T. Chandru. He serves as the Chairman of Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry and is the Chairman and CEO of Modern Montessori International Private Limited. The MMI network spans across 16 countries with over 100 preschools and training colleges in Asia, Pacific, and beyond. It is the single largest Montessori franchise in the world. Dr. Chandru is also the council member of Singapore Business Federation since 2018, board member of the Hindu Advisory Board since 1999, and vice president of Silver Ribbon since 2007. Dr. Chandru, please.
Thank you, Radha. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, participants. Indeed, it's my pleasure to join you today. Now, welcome to the Post-Pandemic Digital Transformation webinar organized by the Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. SICCI recognizes the importance of digital transformation during these difficult times and is proud to organize this event. Now, at this point, I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Professor Sattar Bhavani, for agreeing to speak at this seminar. He is the Chief Executive Officer and Chief Curriculum Architect of the Disruptive Leadership Institute, DLI in short. He is concurrently the CEO and C-suite Master Executive Coach of the Center of Executive Education and a Professor of Practice of Disruptive Leadership with IPE Business School. Now, my special thanks also goes to my board, my CEO Johnson, and my secretariat staff for putting this event together. Now, for those who are not familiar with the Singapore Indian Chamber, which was established in 1924, when a small group of dedicated Indian businessmen who came to Singapore, and they formed an association to better protect, advance, and unify the interests of the Indian business community. With over members from all walks of life, trade, industry, SICCI serves as a connector, enabler, and advocator, helping companies grow both locally and internationally. SICCI strives to provide its members with insight, connections, and support services that will give their companies a competitive edge in the global market. Now, we offer an array of business support services, including trade matching, business advisory, networking sessions, seminars, training, and serve as a champion of members' interests. Our aim is to function as a gateway of opportunities for Indian businesses in Singapore, helping both homegrown and international companies realize their full potential. Digitalization. What does that mean exactly? Digitalization is a transformative. It changes how companies interact with customers, which in turn accelerates economic growth and facilitates job creation and enhances the quality of life for society at large. For businesses and organizations, they adopt new technologies to remain competitive and relevant. Now, from a bird's eye perspective, the potential benefits of digitalization are obvious. Better workflow, more efficiency, better products, and entirely new services are part and parcel of the process. Now, from these advantages stems out such as new customer acquisition channels, facilitates job creation for employees, improved work conditions, and better employee retention, improved decision-making, more willingness to innovate, skills upgrading required for employees, and of course, better teamwork. I'm sure all of us would agree COVID-19 has accelerated the shift in the mindset of companies who want to transform the way they conduct businesses. Some examples of these transformations include companies embracing more track and trace solutions to ensure quality service to end customer and increase the use of advanced data analytic to uncover new, more productive ways of responding to customer needs. We have also seen substantial social benefits, such as job creation and skills upgrading, ultimately enhancing their competitive edge and advance their businesses further. Regardless of how these developing trends unfold, companies must stand ready to ride the wave of change to the new post-COVID norms to enhance our adaptability and competitiveness in the global market. We urge the industry to step forward to co-innovate and create new value. We have Professor Sata Bhavani, an accomplished coach and a good friend of mine, to help us grasp this complex and sometimes misunderstood concept. Professor Sata Bhavani was awarded the Executive of the Year, Human Resources Consulting at the Singapore Business Review Management Excellence Awards in 2019. He has over 30 years of international business management experience, including 20 years in executive coaching, group facilitation, and leadership development and training with global management consulting firms. Professor Bhavani's passion for people and culture is about creating an environment where employees are valued and emotionally engaged in business. He is an experienced facilitator and has spent many years developing leadership capability through the delivery of structured talent management, leadership development programs, including executive coaching. He has also published extensive series of articles on themes related to talent management and leadership effectiveness. His latest book, entitled Leadership in Disruptive Times 2020, published by the Business Expert Press, LLC, New York, has been endorsed by CEOs, CHROs, and business leaders, as well as global thought leaders. So please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Professor Sata Bhavani. I would like to wish everyone a fruitful webinar session today. Thank you, and Professor, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chandru. Thank you. Thank you, SICCI, for inviting me to be here, and thank you to the communication manager, Radha, who has been excellent, and the team to put this together. So welcome and very good afternoon to one and all. And I've seen in the participant list, there are quite a number of you who are my guests, my client, friends across the region. So welcome to each and every one of you. Let me just share the screen so you can see the, yeah, this thing, you know. Okay, so the title of this this afternoon, we have about now it's nearly 3:50, so about 45 minutes or so, is to share with you some latest thinking, best practices regarding managing the challenges of the post-pandemic. Now, not the pandemic. So the question now is, when is the post-pandemic? And then there's something that we can discuss, and I will share my insights. But the most important is we need to start now to be ready for the new normal. And the time is now, not to wait any longer, because we do not have much time to ensure that we have the capability, the resources, and the most important, the talent necessary to bring our organizations to the next level in the new normal. And if you look at, I just be very focused. I'm not going to talk about COVID-19. I'm not going to talk about what the disruption about COVID-19 to job, to livelihood, to business. All this over the past 1 year, since February last year, I've been invited to speak about this, coming to a year, extensively. There are more than 60 over webinar talks that I've done globally in Africa, Europe, in Russia, in US, of course, and in Asia, many. So you can just go into the link there. You can download free. I'm giving free access to everyone. Just subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can download and view many of these webinar videos, best practice, tools, case study from Microsoft, from Starbucks, from Amazon and so forth. So you can look at them, and DBS Bank, it's quite a lot of cases of DBS Bank in the book, and also the video. So I'm not going to talk about that. So please take time to go through some of these videos from the Disruptive Leadership Institute, which is a global outfit that I headed, but I have teams all over the world who contribute to this research, which is now published in the book, the second book on disruptive. The first book was last year on transforming the next generation of leaders for the industry 4.0. And then for this year, in the middle of, in July, we published the second book about disruptive leadership with regard to digital transformation. But halfway, when I was writing this book since August, after the first book, August, September, I started writing about this book. Then in February, the editor and the publisher in New York suggested that I should look at the disruption that the COVID-19 is going to impact on the business organization, and the editor and the publisher was right. So that was on the 20th of February. And now since then, I've been doing every single day research about the evolving nature of the disruptive nature of COVID-19. And up to today, and I publish every other day on my LinkedIn, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, about what are some of the challenges and what leaders need to do. You know, and all this can be found, as I said, online. Please go and download, read them. Now, what I'm going to talk about today, because of the limited time that we have, I'm going to be very focused about what we call, where are we today? Having been through nearly a year, the world came to know about COVID-19 was on the 31st December 2019, where the Chinese government reported to WHO the emergence of this new flu-like virus or SARS-like virus, which has since then been identified as COVID-19, the name that the WHO has given for this virus. And since then, you've seen so many things have happened, lockdown, worldwide. Look at airline, look at tourism. Many industry has been disseminated, has been crushed. And you look at the devastating impact of the virus on livelihoods. Many SME, micro SME, Even you look at large corporations are struggling to be able to keep afloat. And many retail, many organizations have gone. You look at today, of course, what we have seen, the acceleration of the digital transformation. It takes years for organization, for government, or even for Singapore, for example, in Malaysia, Singapore, in Vietnam, the government, as part of the ASEAN, initiative to bring about what we call the ASEAN digital economy in 2030 to 2050. What has happened is that it takes years to convince people to start implementing. So there's a lack of sense of urgency of what we have seen today in the last 12 months. COVID-19 did something that no government has been very successful, is to create the inertia, the sense of urgency that we see today, that companies are forced to do that. Why? Because of the migration into cloud services, because of work from home, or Harvard Business School talk about work from anywhere. And because of the safe distancing or social distancing initiatives that government, or the rules that have been put in place, regulation, to ensure the safety of the employee, of the customers or stakeholders, a company has to reinvent themselves to ensure that they are able to provide services, uninterrupted services. And to do that, that's where technology comes in. But interestingly, over the last 4 or 5 months, when I talked to many of my clients who are going through this transformation, and my institute, the Disruptive Leadership Institute, did a lot of survey in July, August. Then we did one more in October, November. There's a shift of concern, and what has happened because of this, the impact of the work from home, having both parents working from home. At one point in time, schools are closed. The students are learning from home, and that creates a lot of tension, disorientation, a sense of loss of control, emotional disturbance on the employee part, or what we call the mental well-being of the employee. Now, this is of real concern. In many parts of the world, in Europe, in the UK, in the US, even WHO has published reports about the state of mental well-being. In Singapore, for example, 2 months ago, the government announced the tripartite between the SNAFs, the Singapore National Employees Federation, the NGC, and MOM, to Ministry of Manpower. So how to get everyone together to find ways or to address the pressing need about the employee well-being, the employee state of mind. And this is something which I will talk about, and I think it's very important. So we need to address now what is the challenges that we need to talk about. So 2 things. One is the employee well-being, the mental wellness. What can you do to address? Second is the more broader, more strategic issue about digital transformation. But bear in mind, if you don't address the first one, you don't address the people issue, their well-being, the mental state, the emotional well-being, the employee concerns, it will be far much more difficult to ensure the implementation or successful implementation of the digital transformation. So because we believe that, in my book I talk about PPT. Always put your people before your process and technology, because many organizations tend to focus on the technology, and technology is only an enabler. It's the easiest part in technology. You can buy technology, you can get the expertise, but it's the talent that you have. How do you leverage on the talent? How do you protect? They are the only sustainable competitive advantage in any organization, is your leadership team and the people that you're going to need to drive the success of your digital transformation. And I could talk about that. So next, let's move on and look at what's happening today. As I mentioned about the mental well-being. Why this is important. As I already talked a little bit about that just now. one of the biggest challenge is about whether you're frontline, customer interface, or you are in the back end, you know, whatever level you are, people are concerned. Why still the job? Looking at around you, your friend, your colleague, your family, relatives, all of us have someone who has impacted one way or another. So there's a sense of insecurity, sense of loss of control, which created because of the pandemic. And when you work from home, and then you lose your familiar workspace, friends, your colleagues, and then you have to, take care. Some of us who doesn't have a maid, you have to live with the children working from home. And this is what happened in the first, in Singapore, we call it the circuit breaker during the lockdown, partial lockdown, and there's a lot of these challenges, but it's still happening. Even we are in the phase 3 of the recovery, what has happened is that many companies are still working from, getting the employee to work from home. So there's a new adjustment. So how do we handle that? How do we provide support? And what is important for businesses, for organizations, is that what does it mean is that this is going to impact the productivity, productivity and employee engagement. And as a result of these two factors, you find that you may not be able to achieve your results, your goals, your business, your profitability, all are impacted. So it's important to address this head on and to make sure that your leadership team is fully aware what it is, how to address it, and what you need to do next. So because if you don't address this, as I said, you're going to have a lot of challenges, that you're going to lose the talent that you want to keep, and these people will no longer be around to support your digital transformation agenda. Yeah? Now, so what is your challenge? If you look at what I've started, over the last, I would say about 8 months or so, since March, April, we did interview. We keep on asking people, our client, some of our stakeholders who are in a research institution, professional institution, organization, what are the challenges your members are experiencing? And what we have found, and it's published in the book, and also through a series of articles that we have published over the last 6-7 months, you can find a lot of articles that are published. And it is about reinventing their business to ensure sustainability or survival. I use the word survival because at the end of the day, it's about how do we ensure ourselves remain relevant. And the biggest challenge is the SME, the small and medium enterprise. They are struggling. And in particular, within the SME, we have what we call the micro SME, which has an employee size of less than 10, or some organizations define it between 10 to 25, and then you look at the turnover of less than 1 million. These are smaller, more vulnerable because they don't have the resources. And these are, you find a lot of them have been made redundant, or the company doesn't exist, or in some way they have reinvented by right sizing and making it, or could be through mergers and acquisition, working with, through different form of collaboration with their competitors or other partners. So the outlook is quite not so optimistic. A lot of companies now realize that they should have done digital transformation earlier, and they should have leveraged on the various initiative funding that the Singapore government has, SME Go Digital, many schemes the IMDA has put in place, IE Singapore, now we call it the normal IE and Spring come together, the ESG, Enterprise Singapore. So the thing is that what can you do to get all this support? And they are available, they're out there. And in a different country, they are in Malaysia as well, Indonesia, in different forms. In Vietnam, for example, the private sector very, very proactively doing this without even waiting for the government. So what can you do to help your organization? That's the first question. What can you do? Where do you go to? How can you leverage on the support system that's available out there? So how do you resolve it? So now I'm going to come to, so far is what, now we're going to talk about how. Now, and the problem in a lot of company, a lot of leaders, they have this what called knowing, doing gap. They know we all read everyday newspaper, television. Sometimes it's become to fatigue, mental fatigue, or information overload. Looking at so many report news that talk about COVID-19, the impact of the coronavirus, and how he has disrupt business lives and so forth. And every day, without fail, every single day, you would find on CNN, on BBC, even CNA, Channel News Asia, or even your local television station in anywhere in Asia, there would be news coverage about either the state of the coronavirus infection, or the death, or the progress of vaccination, and so forth. So every day you can see news. And as of today, we all know that this nearly 10 million, it's actually 99.1 million as of yesterday, which nearly 100 million cases worldwide. When I published the book on 31st of July, it was exactly, I chose the date, and it was exactly 10 million. So you look at July 2020 up to now, about 6 months or so, the number of infection has tenfold. Can you imagine that? How fast? And when it was, in the Wuhan lockdown on 23rd of January, and it was only less than 800,000. Then in March, it became 2.5 to 3,000, and now we're talking about 100 million. And the volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity of the coronavirus make it very challenging. But we have to manage it. We have to find a way to look into that, because to do that, we have to disrupt our leadership mental model. It starts with the top leadership, from the CEO, the C-1, N-1, N-2, the HOD. Everyone has a role to play. And we need to start thinking differently. We need to disrupt our what we call the disruptive mental agility with cognitive readiness, to be able to develop strategies which are relevant for the future, the changing world of work. We need to be able to understand how the customers of tomorrow. If you don't do that effectively, what's going to happen? You're going to lose the opportunity to seize the market place. And what we have found over the last 6 months, talking to our client, those who are able to put the people first, ensuring that they have the resources, developing them, they are the one who is successful today, and they are better in position to seize the opportunity when the post-pandemic eventually arrives. I mean, the new normal. So how do you do that? How do you ensure customer centricity? How do you ensure that the people are ready and equipped? But at the end of the day, what the post-pandemic is going to look like is a high level of customer centricity, innovation-driven workplace with design thinking practices, looking at how can you develop new, new leaders. How do you hire the Gen Z, Gen Y, and Gen Z? And the gig economy is booming. How can you leverage? How do you change the compensation in philosophy? How do you, when you're hiring philosophy? A lot of things have to change, and HR has a lot of work to play. Those of you joining me who are HR, you have a lot of opportunity to demonstrate what we call the strategic partnership. And this is a great opportunity because leaders, business with CEO, board of directors are looking forward. How can we strengthen our position, our team? And HR business leaders are right at the forefront. So what I call the leadership 4.0. So how do we transform? How do you look at your competency model? A lot of leadership competency model worldwide, even in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam. I spent a lot of time in Africa. I was in Mombasa, Kenya, virtually, of course. I was 2 months ago. I was in Dallas. I was in Oklahoma, and also in Boston, talking to some client. How do you transform? And interestingly, I was also in Paris, looking at how universities can reinvent education. Institution, because they, interestingly, although they are the one who, in this institution, in terms of developing, in terms of knowledge, but most of them are not at the forefront. And a lot of universities are impacted very soon. A lot of them is going to be out of business. And you may have read about that, how technology has really shifted the way of learning, impacting most of the institutions. So what we have done is doing our research, we look at global organizations, small, medium enterprise, and we have found that there are certain what we call competency, the leadership, the competency that would be able to help leaders of the future. Number one, we look at Microsoft, DBS Bank Singapore, Citibank, GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, ExxonMobil, Netflix, Starbucks, Alibaba, Grab, Uber, and many of these organizations, they're all similar. And they are best practice competency. Number one is about disruptive mentality. How do you be innovation driven? How do you disrupt your mindset? And how do you think outside of it? The disruptive mentality means there should not be a box. We always talk about think outside the box. There's no box. Then of course entrepreneurial, we should all know. This is something we all know because the visionary and entrepreneurial skills is something we all know and it's been around. But in the digital transformation, because you talk about customer centricity, and it's very important to be able to have that mindset. Number three is our cognitive readiness, a suite of competency, including mindfulness, including being able to make decisions using both the gut feeling and the big data or predictive analysis. And we call it together, we call it the mental agility. And then number four is the resilience and adaptability. Again, it's not new because we know in the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009, in the Asian financial crisis in 97, 98, we look at the SARS in 2003, 2004, we look at the September 11 in 2001 and the dot-com crisis in 2000. Those who are able to demonstrate resilience, adaptability, they survive. So we know that, but again, in today's context, again, it's very important in the digital transformation. If you want to move into the next level, if you want to bring your people to the next level, you need to adapt that. Of course, the interesting thing, number five, is empathy and social skills. Because we talk about the digital transformation, it's all about customer centricity. How do you put the customer around everything you do? And it cuts across all departments. It's not the responsibility of the IT or the technology department, but it's the responsibility of everyone. It's driven, it's no longer driven by IT or marketing. It used to be marketing, but or what we call the R&D or innovation, but today is everyone in the organization, every department, every function is involved. Okay, so it's very important. How do you do that? And good example, I will encourage you all to read the book. Besides my book, of course, my book encapsulates all the different best practices of different organizations, but it's one book which I highly recommend if you want to focus on number five, is Refresh by the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, the guy that you see on the top left of the screen. So he wrote a book called Refresh. Very interesting how he has transformed Microsoft to be the best, better than Bill Gates was running in terms of the, you look at the, what we call the organization profitability, in terms of the organization innovation practices. And he's better than Steve Ballmer, the second CEO, and he's one of the best CEO around who has transformed Microsoft. Okay. And lastly, driving for success. We know that what we want is people who have high achievement orientation. So all this in the book, on chapter 6 of the book, I put into a very detailed, it's a nearly 380-page book, which talk about all the chapter, very detailed, and how to do, it's about how to do it. And you can look at the leaders who are worldwide, who have gone through the book, they endorsed it, and they're using it like a blueprint. Yeah. So again, this is number one. First tool, re-examine your leadership competency. Because if you don't do this, you get the wrong person. You want to hire. First, assess your current leadership. Are they the right person to drive? If they do not have this competency, upskill, reskill, develop them. If they do not, if you cannot have these people are not able to help you to move forward, then hire the right people. Find the right talent to help the organization. Otherwise, you cannot implement, you cannot successfully drive the digital transformation. Now, so besides the digital competency, the other one is the culture. So what we in the book chapter 5, I talk about the culture digital transformation. I look at Microsoft, Netflix, DBS Bank, and DBS Bank was a huge 80% of the chapter about DBS Bank, because it's a very interesting case study which I've put forward, how Piyush Gupta and his leadership team, the CEO of DBS Bank, transformed DBS to be the global #1 digital bank 4 years in a row, and very successful. And it's not rocket science. And if I look at DBS success, Microsoft, Netflix, Starbucks, Grab, Uber, Amazon, 3M, all these organizations, there's some commonality, something that we all can learn, we can adopt. Very simple. Number one, if you want to embark on digital transformation, make sure you have a clarity. What are you trying to accomplish? What's your digital vision? What is your transformation agenda? Everyone in the organization must have a line of sight to what you're trying to accomplish. Number two, you must have a cultural obsession of the customer centricity. Everything you do must be around the customer. No two way about it. People must accept that. It's an outside-in perspective. And that's very important. The third element of the culture, the digital transformation, what we call the DTDX. Sometimes digital transformation is known as DT, sometimes is known as DX. So it's about your structure. So your structure always follow your strategy. So you must create a lean environment, a lean structure. How do you create a more responsive organization to be able to transform your value proposition, bringing value in, so make sure that people understand. And as I said, your structure must allow you to deliver the customer value proposition, empower your team, make it easy for customer to transact. Number four, we all know about communication. How do you communicate internally and externally to your stakeholders? What does it mean? What does the new organization means with regard to the digital transformation? What is your agenda? How are you going to transform? You need to communicate to your stakeholders and partners. Number four is the data-driven problem-solving decision-making technique using big data, AI, machine learning, general machine learning, and not only machine learning, not only AI, machine learning, general machine learning, where with subset of machine learning, how decisions can be taken by itself, which allow you to leave it to, of course, there's a pro and con, there's risk involved, and you need to look at what type of decision, what type of process that you can automate, you can allow that to happen. And many organizations, in banks, insurance, you look at manufacturing, there are a lot of what we call the AI has come into place, robotic, and there's a new concept called cobot, C-O-B-O-T. Cobot is about how collaborative robot, how we need to use robot together hand in hand with the human being workers in the factory floor, and how the robot will take command from the human being, often work together. And this is something very interesting. And we're seeing in automobile manufacturing, we're seeing in heavy machinery and so forth. And lastly, I said the best for last. It's about your talent, the leader. As I mentioned earlier about the 6th competency, the disruptive leadership competency. And here is the last one. So you need to ensure that your leadership team, your talent has the right skill. Because at the end of the day, if this is not evidence, is not present, you will have difficulty to execute. Okay. Now, so how can we help you? So what we have done in Malaysia, Vietnam, you can see all these videos on the link I gave you. You can see the testimonial. We have done quite a number of this over the last 6 months. And what we have, based on the market requirement, market feedback, what they want, it's a series of flexible program at different level. It can be half a day, 1 day, 2 day, 5 day. Can be a series of workshop over 6 months. Whatever is the client requirement, we structure it very simply, make it easy for the client to help them to reinvent. Whether SME, whether local larger SME or MNC or global organization, we design something which is flexible, competitive to help our client to get ready for the digital transformation and include leading disruptive time based on the book, and then leading in digital, which is the topic of today, leading digital transformation, and how do you develop future digital leaders. The number 4, VUCA driven. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, which is the focus of my first book in 2019. Then of course, high performance digital organization, which is again a chapter in the book. And how do you implement? All this, how do you implement? And how do you bring about the high performing team? And number 7, about culture. How do you create a coaching culture to empower your team? How do you empower your Gen Y, Gen Z, the latest generation coming to the workforce? And lastly, how do you transform the workplace of the future, what we call the world of work, and of the future of work, FOW. So the way that we deliver, the way we run the organization has to be ready and has to be prepared, allow us to be nimble, agile, and agile is the keyword. Agility is very important. How can we be better, faster, and cheaper if we can, be more competitive to really help our customers, help our stakeholders to be able to partner with them together and bring success to each of our partners. And in talking about the mental wellness, so what we did, since we published a book, we have organizations telling us, one of the biggest problems is people working from home. We are struggling, and some of the programs too expensive. Some of the big names, we cannot afford. What can we do simply? So what we have done over the last 6 months, we're running what we call a series of short webinar, for staff during lunch and learn, helping them to reorientate. We work with other partners who provide counseling, medical, what we call the assessment and so forth. But what we have found useful is 3 things. What customers are telling us is that they need to be able to regularly update their staff. What are some of the best practice, some of the latest technique, how to keep themselves fit, healthy, could be yoga, and we have a partner who does provide yoga on site. We have some of the about eating well, how to eat and what you eat, dieting and the right kind of food, and also exercising. We have, of course, our flagship program, we call the corporate wellness program, include personal training, either as a group. We go to, because of the pandemic, we don't do it we used to do it in the organization. Now we do it virtually. We call it online coaching. We still, because Singapore, we are now in phase 3, so a lot of our clients now doing it in the gym. And our head coach, chief wellness instructor, and our head coach is the 2016 Asia champion, who Daniel, you can see the photograph there. So Daniel is helping a lot of clients to prepare for the new normal and provide online, very competitive, $300, very competitive for organizations to support their staff, and for those who want to personalize one-on-one. Or, of course, we do webinar, like corporate wellness webinar, talk. We have speakers, doctors, we have professionals, who come in to talk about every aspect. And this is what we do in terms of the corporate wellness. So if you want to know more, it's a corporate-wellness.pro is our website for corporate wellness. They are part of the division of CE. We call it the gold standard. The gold standard is our brand for corporate wellness. Okay, and there's also a number that you can WhatsApp. Yeah. Now, So I want to say, I'm finishing now to Q&A now. So you can subscribe to free videos, articles, best practice, research that I'm giving away free. So go in and subscribe and enjoy the article. It's all online. You can download and read online. And some of the videos you can watch. But subscribe, because every week there'll be new videos and you'll be alerted. Once you subscribe as a member, it's free. We will alert you whenever there's a new video. Okay, and for those who are interested in the book, these are the two books that based on the disruption, the digital disruption. The one on the right, Transforming League Championship, was 2019, about preparing for the digital workplace. The one on the left is the disruptive, about the impact, about what to. So the one on 2019, I talk about what to do. The 2020 is about how to do it, how to manage the disruption. And there are three chapters, chapter 2, 3, and 2, 3, and 10 talk about COVID, the disruption. So you can, and it's quite, include issues like vaccination, with the mutation. And I talk about that since April, May. The mutation, the variant, now that you hear a lot about this, and it's in a book. I talk about why this is something we need to be prepared, because it will impact when are we going to go back to new normal. So with all this unknown, we are learning every day. So if you want to know more about the books, if you want to get for your staff, for your management, just email us, inquiry@CE-global. I'll be delighted. If you want a copy of this presentation as well, email us, and I'll be delighted to send you a copy of the presentation. With that note, I will now, we're on time, 3:50, so I will now stop here, and I'll hand over back to Radha for the Q&A. Radha?
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so I would just, okay. Okay, so now we are moving on to the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, please drop it down at the Q&A button. So Professor, we have a question right away. Let me just share that with you. Okay, so we have a question from S. Devendran. He's asking, could you elaborate more on putting people first? Is there a framework, etc., to start?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you for the question, Devendran. I think the framework is called RBL, results-based leadership, putting people first before process and technology. So you can get it from my website, you can Google it, and you can find in the book I detail it very simply. We look at results. A result is a lagging indicator. We always focus on results, but what you should be focusing on the driver of results, which is the people. So leadership team, the intact team that is executing the digital transformation, you should focus on them first. If you get it right, if you focus on the people, we call it result-based leadership, or PPT, putting people before process technology, when they're engaged, they will be able to put forward what you want them to do. They're able to engage the customer. When they engage the customer and you're able to get the results, because the customer is going to come back again and again and again. So if you look at the putting people first, basically focus on your staff, and the staff, when they engage, when they are able to enhance the productivity level they're doing, and they're able to communicate the customer effectively, you can then deliver value to your customer, and the customer will come back again and again. That's where results comes in. So always focus on your employee, your leadership team, and that's what I mean by people first, PPT, put people before process and technology. I hope I answered that question. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. We actually, that's the questions we have. We only have a question. Is there anything else you would like to elaborate at your end?
Yeah. So I think what is important, as I mentioned earlier, two things. Always look at from an outside-in perspective. So what I would suggest, because of a lot of things are happening right now. People are still worried about are we going to still have a job? But we need to get the employee to be focused on what they're doing. And to do that, at the end of the day, it's about customers. So we need to go out and talk to our customers. What is it that they want now? How can we deliver? What is the most important, 2 to 3 things that is most important to your key customers that you can deliver? how can you, once you know that, there's outside in perspective, once you know what a customer needs, what is important, how can you reinvent? How can you now deliver your product and services to ensure that it serves the customer? So that's number one. Number two, I think you need to start asking this question: what are we trying to accomplish in the new normal? In the new normal, with the word new normal, things are not going to be the same. Now, two things definitely going to happen. Number one is the external demand customers impose on you, because they themselves are, especially B2B. When you are in B2B, their customers is going to impose on them the way they need to deliver the services and so forth. Therefore, they will expect you, the supplier or provider. So this is very important to understand that things are not going to be normal. Number two is your people expectation, your talent, and you're going to see more and more Gen Y, and you're going to see Gen Z in next year coming in a big way, starting. And Gen Z are those who are born between 1995 to 2010. Gen Y are those born in 1980 to 1994. So Gen Y, they're quite substantial. The next 5 years, Gen Y is going to be in a leadership position. But the Gen Z, they are very different. The expectation, the way they want to be motivated, they want to be coached. They don't want to be told what to do. They know what they want. They are more resourceful. So you need to adopt a concept called reverse mentoring. Basically, they need to teach you. You must be prepared, be humble enough to be open to learn. Like for me, I'm learning from two of my sons. I'm learning from two of my students, in the US, who are teaching me about design thinking, about algorithm, about machine learning, and these are all, some technical, and they are very comfortable doing this. So we must be prepared to accept that. But the thing that I think there's a lot of things happening. So be focused on your customer, be focused on your people. There's a result-based leadership, PPT, people before process, and you should be fine. But again, leverage on for SME. Many companies are SME. Singapore, Malaysia, there are a lot of funding. In SICCI, you have the SME, center. I encourage people to go and talk to a consultant. What can we leverage upon? What are some of the grant funding? And use that to upgrade, reskill, upskill your workforce.
Okay. So we have two more questions to go. So we got a question from Munira. Malaysia is now in third wave COVID pandemic. What is your view on how we will go through this worsening situation?
Yeah. So I think this is the thing, the challenge that you look at many governments around the world. I wrote this and published a lot about public health. So when the COVID-19 impacted, as I said, when the lockdown, many countries started, after China imposed on Wuhan, and then the travel ban and so forth, you see in March, many countries start put into place. Social distancing, travel restriction, and some are very good. I'll give you an example. The best country is New Zealand. How good they are. There was one instance, and in my book I talk about some of the leadership and in articles I published since the book was published in July, August, September, October, November. I look at leaders around the world, and I published my link, and one of them is Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and how she put in place, and she used a lot of empathy to communicate. But it's about people behavior. We need to influence, you need to communicate, you need to have authentic communication to influence. Now, what's happening in Malaysia is unfortunate. It's not unique. We have fourth wave in Hong Kong. We have in Europe. In UK is worse. UK has the highest per capita death in the world. Worse than in America. Now, what does it mean? This is something we need to reflect. So in Malaysia, in my view, that the public health, and I think the DG, the Director General of the Malaysian Ministry of Health, who's Dr. Noor Hisham, he's very well known internationally. He's trying to put in place, but there's so much the government, the public sector official can do. It's about attitude, about behavior. We have to do our part. In Singapore, we have issues like recently, we have people who are sick, like this cluster of vet, the police vet, K9, where they're sick, they don't seek help. So what happened? It spread to their family, to community, right? And the same thing we have seen in other countries, like Taiwan, just last night, who has been very successful, one of the best country who is able to control the community transmission. There's an issue about the community spreading, and so in Hong Kong, gone through the last 2 months, same thing, South Korea, Japan. So I think Malaysia, this is the challenge. What else can the government do? Now they have called an emergency order, means to bring, to marshal in resources to put in place. And I wish them well, and I pray for the best outcome, not only in Malaysia, everywhere in the world. In Singapore as well, I think the government, the ministerial task force for COVID-19 is putting in place a lot of measures. And I think this is the right thing, because we have to adapt and adjust as things things evolve. I cannot hear you, Radha. You're on mute.
Sorry. Okay, we have a last question. So we have a question from Dayalan Nathan. Can disruptive leadership play a part on massive unemployment due to the pandemic in creating the new kind of jobs for the masses?
Can you repeat the question?
Can disruptive leadership play a part on massive unemployment due to the pandemic in creating the new kind of jobs for the masses?
Yeah, actually, it's twofold. The pandemic has impacted on livelihood, as I mentioned. The ILO, the UNDP. In my book, I explain the various global agency, what they have predicted. And it's really, this is the amazing what the UNDP, what the WHO, what the WTO, all the global organization has predicted. It cannot be true. Now, what can we do is to disrupt our way of thinking and how we think about policy. Where do you find a new job? In Singapore, we are very fortunate. Our National Job Council is being chaired by our former Deputy Prime Minister, now our current Senior Minister, Tharman Shanmugaratnam, someone who are highly respected, not only in Singapore, in the region, and globally. Now, he has what I call the disruptive mental agility, engaging with him, having met him, talking to him. And I think he's one of the very few leaders who's able to have this ability to think. As I say, it's not about outside the box. There should not be a box. So when you talk about disruptive mental agility, how do you use cognitive readiness, suite of competency, to be able to reinvent your thinking and shift your mental models to a higher degree to be able to find new solutions? Now, can we use disruptive? Yeah, disruptive leadership is designed for that. So you need to be able to find new ways. How can you work? And this is the problem that many countries are facing. How do we then upskill our workforce? And Singapore is a good example where for the last 15, 20 years, we are preparing the workforce, ready to upgrade. We have schemes, Skills Future, various schemes to help the companies to train their employees to prepare for the future workplace. And I think companies should take advantage. Now, what the government is doing with the National Job Council, chaired by Senior Minister Tharman, is to find new jobs, create new jobs. And some of the old jobs are going to go. They're not going to come back. Some of the, retail, some of the low-end, very manual, task-driven is going to be replaced with technology, with robotic process automation. There's going to be a lot of RPA, a lot of AI going to come into place to replace some of the menial tasks. So the question is this: what are you going to do? We look at the future. There'll be a lot of opportunity in the e-commerce, in the life science, in the what we call the data analytics, and they are emerging technology, emerging blockchain technology in supply chain. Blockchain is being used in supply chain, in global shipping and so forth. So we need to ask ourselves: are we prepared to move to new jobs? Are you prepared to switch? And this is very important because we must have that career, the mentality and career agility to move to new industry, new jobs. Gone are the days where, oh, no, I'm very happy what I'm doing. You know, I don't want, I'm in sales, or I'm doing in, in pharma. I don't want to move to IT, or, oh no, I'm in education. I cannot move to technical job. No, today you need to ask yourself, what do you need to do to prepare yourself? And just prepare. At the end of the day, why are you doing this for? So this is a tough question we need to ask ourselves to prepare. And I believe, and this is one thing I do believe, and I believe in the Gen Y and Gen Z, because in 2015, I've done the research and I published it. You can find on my website about the Gen Y and Gen Z. They are the future. They are able to adapt. They are able to maneuver and disrupt quickly. The challenge people are asked, being boomer, Gen X leaders, are we prepared to give them a chance? Give them a chance to reinvent. So we have to play our part. So our existing leadership team, we have to ask ourselves, can you empower? Can you help these people? If you don't, your organization is going to face a lot of problems in the future. And your digital transformation agenda, forget about jobs, we're talking about preparing for new jobs and so forth. If you don't have the right people in place, you're not going to have, because it's all about mental agility. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you so much. Now I would like to invite our CEO to give off the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It is now my pleasant duty to propose a vote of thanks. On behalf of SICCI, I express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Chandru, Chairman of SICCI, and our distinguished speaker, Professor Satta Bhavani. I also want to thank the Board of Directors of SICCI who are present at this session. Most of all, I want to thank all of you who have spent your valuable time with us this afternoon. Professor Satta had discussed salient ideas about digital transformation. It is no longer a luxury, as the pandemic has proven that digitalization is a necessity if you want to develop an unstoppable business. We are grateful for the disruptive leadership tactics that he has shared with us. And in putting people first, we can ride on this new challenge effectively. I hope you have benefited from this webinar, and I hope you'll be a member of SICCI if you're already not a member. We want to develop a sustainable community and help you to grow your business. Thank you once again. Thank you, Radha.
Okay, so Radha, before we end, I think somebody just messaged me privately. They want to see the contact. So let me just put up the contact. You can take a screenshot or photo. Where is it? Yeah. So this is my contact. So my email is there. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. It's the easiest. LinkedIn. Connect me on my personal LinkedIn or DLI link, whatever. So if you need more, if you need a copy of the slides, let me know. I'll be delighted to share with you. All the various social media platforms there. I want to say thank you again for Indian Chamber of Commerce Industry, to the chairman, the Chandru, to the CEO, Johnson, and to Radha, of course, who's been very helpful in organizing this, and also to the board of directors of SICCI for this opportunity. And I look forward to engaging all of you again and to connect and have further discussion. So with that note, thank you so much for joining me today. Over to you, Radha.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for attending this session. This recording will be up on our SICCI YouTube channel, so please do watch them if you have missed out any of the portions there. Yeah, thank you so much.
When are you going to load it up?
It will be up by tomorrow, sir. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, Ken. Thank you. Thanks.
Have a great day,
everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.